I'm not making it up, and I used to be in school with a girl whose name was Molly, and her last name was Benedidum.
She probably invented it.
She probably invented the element. Yeah, absolutely.
Big time guys, welcome back in our next installment of Knife Selection Criteria with Big Time Ryan. Today, we're gonna be talking about what I think is one of the most important pieces of criteria, is what is the knife made out of? What kind of steel is the blade made out of?
Big Time Ryan, you're lucky to be alive because it's 2024 and this isn't your dad's steel anymore. Knife steel, when we think about steel, we're looking at 4 characteristics here, buddy. We're looking at edge retention, which is how long does it hold that sharp edge, right? We're looking at ease of sharpening. Can a guy even like you put an edge back on it, right? How tough is it? Toughness. Okay, if I beat the crap out of it or punch it through a steel car door, is it going to hold its edge, right? And finally, corrosion resistance. Will it rust? If we go scuba diving with it, is it going to turn into a rusty pile of crap after we bring it back out of the water? So those 4 criteria: edge retention, ease of sharpening, toughness, and corrosion resistance. That's what we're looking at.
Great.
So when we start with blade steels, we start with like your carbon steels and like this kind of like
generic
low carbon steels, things that are like kind of forged, kind of made by like blacksmiths. That is more the homemade stuff. Your SWAT knife here is probably made out of some kind of crappy oil quenched hardened carbon steel. Really not the greatest thing in the world. However, easy to sharpen, but on the other 3 categories doesn't do well. And so, you know, we're going to kind of advance ourselves here to 2 other blade steels. The first one that we're going to talk about is a high alloy tool steel or a high speed steel. These steels are air hardened and they contain lots of molybdenum. Molybdenum. It's an element.
Okay.
And they contain lots of tungsten.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, so tungsten and molybdenum.
I think you're making that one up.
I'm not making it up, and I used to be in school with a girl whose name was Molly, and her last name was Benedidum.
She probably invented it.
She probably invented the element. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so our high alloy tool steels, they're not all steel. They've got some of these other elements in them. They have good edge retention. They're easy to sharpen. An example you might hear Rick talk about is like a Maximate. Rick likes that steel on the knife. Our friend, the Garberg, it uses kind of one of these tool steels. And so really easy to sharpen, holds a good edge, not corrosion resistant though. This is not a stainless steel. And you can see on our little guy there, it's got some corrosion over time.
Yeah, my Maximate at home has a bit of corrosion from too much love.
But great, you know, this is a sharp knife, and it's you know, I don't know what kind of environment you're going to be in. If you're not in a crazy wet environment, this might be the right kind of thing for you.
And how are they on toughness? I imagine that, you know, some of these are a lot more brittle, and when we really talk about toughness, you're, you know, worried about
folding the edge over. Yeah, they can be a little less tough, but they're easier to put an edge back on. And so this Esse Junglas.
What is it?
The Junglas or the Junglas. I like the Junglas, but I think it's called the Junglas. This is another, you know, alloy steel situation. Again, really easy to sharpen, but you're right. It's not the toughest thing in the world. But you know, it does okay, right? And so that's one way to go. The next way to go is you can go with something stainless. You get a great corrosion resistance, and they have a lot of chromium in them.
A lot of
Chromium.
Is that another like Tony Stark thing that you're throwing around
chromium.
here?
It's another element. It's like molybdenum and tungsten.
I think I use that on my computer. Chromium.
Yeah,
Well, I think chromium or whatever you call it is like naturally found on a Cadillac or something.
Yeah. So anyway, they're in the knives too, and so you've got this guy right here. This is a Spyderco, and it's got an LC200N, which is like a pretty nice steel.
One of the channel's favorites.
One of our favorites, and it doesn't hold the edge quite as long, and they're a little harder to sharpen, but you're not going to get any kind of rust out of that bad boy.
It's actually, that same steel is in my pocket right now. I love it.
That's why it's got a little fish fin on it, huh?
Probably.
Now,
And in the salt.
that LC200N, that's become popular fairly recently, but the tried and true stainless is probably S35VN. And that's what this guy is right here. It is a very popular steel on a lot of bushcraft knives. It is a little bit easier to sharpen than the LC200N, but it definitely doesn't hold the edge quite as long. But it's a good steel, and if you're going to be out in the wet weather, it will not rust, and it's a little bit lighter on the pocket than the LC200N.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, being in 2024, everybody's trying to outdo themselves. And this guy right here is made of a steel called Magna Cut. Now, Magna Cut is what people think of as like a super steel because they think it has all the qualities. They think it's tough. They think it's got great edge retention. They think it's easy to sharpen. And they think it's very corrosion resistant. And that's true. Those things are true. All the knife nerds are always looking for the steel that's got all four of those categories. But it's impossible. You're going to give up a little bit. I like the Magna Cut. But
That's the first word you said that I don't think is made up, actually.
Magna Cut?
Yeah.
Well, there's no Magna or cuts. Well, I don't know what to call it, Magna Cut. But anyway, I like Magna Cut. I find it... I don't think it retains the edge as well as people talk about on the internet. That's my personal opinion. But I do think it is really, really tough. And I think it has great corrosion resistance.
So how's it to sharpen if the edge goes away?
It sharpens pretty quick.
Okay.
Sharpens up pretty quick. So this is a Overland by Schwartz Knives, Magna Cut, and I really like it, but I will say you pay a pretty penny for Magna Cut. So that S35VN is looking pretty good when you see the price of Magna Cut.
I was just about to ask. I mean, I'm sure within each category they're all over the place in price, but if you compare the tool steels to the stainless, how do they kind of line up as a general rule, or is there a lot of overlap?
There's some overlap, but typically the stainless, like these high-end kind of exotic stainless they've come up in the last couple of years, they're more expensive than the tool steels. So, big time, guys. What tool steel will Ryan get for his knife? You tell us in the comments. Let us know which ones you're using. Is Magna Cut the only thing anybody can use now? Is that all the rage?
Or is there
not?
or is there a better one we don't know about?
There's something better.
Or will we be finally figuring out how to say molybdenum?
Yeah, if you know how to say molybdenum, for our chemistry subscribers out there, please help us out.
Yeah.
Either way, next time we're gonna go over some size and shape here for Big Time Ryan and let Big Time Ryan do a little demo on some of these knives for you. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.